Hey guys, kinggath here with another patch for Sim Settlements. This is patch 3.5.1, which I'm calling the second coming of Mr. Clean. And that's a bit of a misnomer because this patch actually involves a lot of Mr. Cleans and one Mrs. Clean, or Miss Clean. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of cleanup going on in this mod. And what I mean by cleanup is that periodically I like to go back through Sim Settlements and take some time to clean up a lot of the little nitpicky issues you guys have reported that I just hadn't had time to deal with. I like those gone too, but they end up not being a priority when there are more important bugs to take care of. And I also like to take a look at the new user experience. Now, fortunately, I had a lot of help in that department thanks to the Coherent Configuration Wizards thread that was suggested by a few different users, including Coherent, and they were basically discussing a series of posts that Snarky Writer does for us every month, where he analyzes all of the posts on simsettlements.com and the Nexus and kind of categorizes them based on the problems that people are reporting with Sim Settlements. Well, about 70% of the problems that get reported tend to be people having trouble understanding a lot of the mechanics of the mod. So clearly that's a failure on my part in the way some of this mod's designed. So, and I might be off on that 70%. Snarky's probably shouting at me because he's actually a data analyst and has done a great work, and I'm probably screwing up his statistics. But anyway, the point is that the large majority of the issues are just fixable from a user experience standpoint. So they tackled the project on the forums of coming up with a way that might help alleviate some of those issues for players. So we discovered that one of the biggest concerns folks have are new users coming in who expect Sim Settlements to be a lot more automated than it is. So Sim Settlements has a lot of options enabled by default that actually make city planning and settlement design a little bit more involved, yet a lot of people who come to Sim Settlements expect it to be less involved. So what we've done is, after you load up the City Manager holotape and push OK and get past this screen you're used to, instead of being asked if you want to do a wizard or not, you're just asked to choose what type of user you are. And the reason for that is that one of the things that was reported is that wizard was a little confusing if you didn't know much about Sim Settlements. If all you knew about Sim Settlements is that you heard it was a cool mod that changed the way settlements were played, that's probably not enough to answer those questions effectively. So instead, if you're a new user and you push new user, you won't be asked any questions. Instead, you'll just have this mod set up for you in a way that we think will work for most people. And then we figure that anybody who really gets into the mod after that new user phase will take the time to go read up more about it, and then they'll learn about some of the other features. But the new users who only want the automation and tend to dislike all of those other things that are confusing them, they're never going to get into the mod that much anyway, so they're not going to care if all of those features are disabled, is kind of how we're approaching it. Now, all of you guys are likely returning users, so we changed your experience as well, because we found that a lot of returning users were having trouble where they maybe returned after several months of hiatus and they just forgot what to answer on the wizard or how things worked. And so we're giving those players a quick way to get up and running. So if you hit returning user, you will be given a list of profiles. Now, I've set up 3 based on feedback from the people in that thread, and these 3 actually happen to match up the 3 types of players that I tend to try and think about different ways to play for. So the automated players, those of you who prefer everything to be automatic. So you just want Sim Settlements to take over most of the work. You love the coming back and visiting the settlements to see what has changed, but you're not really interested in more complicated gameplay. Then City Simulator are for those of you who like the default options of Sim Settlements. So if you've always liked the way Sim Settlements has played, you like systems like dynamic needs, you can just hit this middle option and know that most things will match up what you expect. And then lastly are those hardcore players among you who enjoy all of the extreme mechanics like the maintenance costs and realistic build times and things like that. Now, to help you remember and understand what exactly is going to get changed, and because we might add more profile options in the future, there's a brief description of what you can expect to change. So we didn't list every single option because that would be a horrible nightmare to read through. So instead, I just summarized it based on the options that would have the biggest impact on your gameplay. So choose the one that best matches you, and then choose yes, looks good, and then you'll go through the performance wizard like normal, and that's it. So for most of you, you'll be able to buzz right through. Now, if you're the type of person that liked that old wizard, you can still access it. It's under Tools, Configuration Tools, and then Configuration Wizard, and it will ask you the same questions and it will set things up the same way. Now, if you really like the nitty-gritty control of Sim Settlements, you've still got access to it. So everything under options, gameplay, and even down to local level is still all there and available for you to change it, so you can get the exact Sim Settlements experience that you prefer. All right, next up, let's talk once again about the script data problem. So this has been on my mind ever since we discovered it, ever since people started having problems with the 3.4.6 patch, and I'm obsessed with finding ways to beat this bugger until we get an official response from Bethesda or a override from the F4 SE team. So one of the things that I've been looking into is ways to strip out a lot of the unnecessary data from Sim Settlements. Now, thanks to Pra, and you may know that name because he has released dozens of awesome mods for Fallout 4. If you're not familiar with his work, check out the link in the description to all of his different mods. And he put together a script that analyzes building plans and city plans and strips out the excess data. And doing that, we were able to shave 8 megabytes of space off of Sim Settlements, and that's all script data usage. So that's a big deal when you figure that the whole limit for your entire game is 64 megs. We were able to shave off 1/8 of that just from the core of Sim Settlements. I've also applied it to the Mega Pack and the complex city plans, so there are updates for both of those available as well, which will further reduce your script data usage. Now, we're going to take that one step further, and we're going to release these tools for all of the add-on pack authors and city plan authors to apply to their own stuff so that they can release updates and further reduce things, so we can get, even if you're using Sim Settlements and every available community piece of content out, you will still be way below the script data limit, which is exactly what I wanted to see, because it's been a little bit nerve-wracking and scary that we might have to cease some of the development of Sim Settlements, but with the amount of data we were able to strip out, I'm confident we can add a lot more content without causing any problems for you guys. So definitely grab those updates to those other mods and be on the lookout for updates for all of your favorite add-on packs and city plans. All right, and then lastly, we've got a really big project in the works, and that's thanks to Miss Jeb Arwaki, who has taken on a project I bet you guys all had given up hope on, which is that bug report section for Rise of the Commonwealth. So unlike Industrial Revolution and Sim Settlements, where I tend to just handle all the bugs as they come in, Rise of the Commonwealth is mostly about the different city plans, and so we gave each of them their own sub-bug report section so that we could keep them organized. Well, unfortunately, we haven't had anybody available to tackle them with any regularity. So there have been a few fixes here and there, but for the most part, almost every bug that's been reported on those has gone unnoticed since Rise of the Commonwealth came out last year. So we wanted to finally get that fixed, and Jeb stepped up to start tackling that. So in this particular patch, we have cleaned up Abernathy Farm, and sorry if I keep hitting the mic there, I'm counting things off on my fingers. I like to talk with my hands. You guys might not know that, but I'm doing that behind the microphone here. So anyway, so in Abernathy Farm and Coastal Cottage, both of the optimized designs have had some updates done to them. So we've cleaned up some overlapping items that were particularly terrible, cleaned up some floating items, and we've even gone one step further, and we're starting to rebalance the settlements for people who enjoy the maintenance costs. So I think one of the biggest complaints I get about maintenance costs is that some of the settlements cost so many caps every day that it's just not worth using the system for those particular settlements. So there are always going to be a few that will be a hindrance for the system, for the maintenance system, and those are the ones that it's very thematic for them to have an access. For example, Sanctuary Level 3 has a giant generator in it, a nuclear power generator, and so it's going to have a lot of extra power. Or Warwick Homestead has a giant water purification plant, so it's going to have a lot of excess water. So some of them that are going to be very obvious will have excesses of things, but for all the rest of the settlements, we're paring it down to the bare minimum needed to operate the settlement and keep all of the needs met. So that way, those of you who enjoy maintenance costs can continue to do so without having a big stress on your cap usage based on these city plans. And then for those of you guys who don't use maintenance costs, we're only stripping off extreme excesses anyway, so it's not really going to affect your settlement. Now, if you like the way your level 3 settlement is right now and you don't want any changes to it, just don't refresh your city. But if you do want to see the changes to the ones that we've announced that we've done the cleaning process to, just go ahead and run the refresh city option, which is available on the city planner's desk by clicking on the blueprint. So the first two, like I said, we've covered Abernathy and Coastal Cottage. Those are ready to go now on the optimized plans, and others will come in the patch notes. So keep an eye on the patch notes for each additional patch, as we'll cover more and more of the settlements. Now, for the first round, we're just going to be doing the optimized because we assume that most players, that's what they're going to use, and we want this project to affect the most players possible. Unfortunately, because we kind of split the plans at some point, and now there's the complex and optimized, this work is essentially going to have to be done twice. So the complex plans is likely not going to happen for a very long time, just because this project is a very large one just to hit all of the optimized one time. So if you are a maintenance cost junkie and your next playthrough, you might want to consider using the optimized plans as opposed to the complex, just for the fact that we're going to be actually tackling that issue for you right away, whereas the complex might not happen for quite some time. All right, guys, I think that covers everything we're talking about. Definitely read the whole patch notes, though, if you're interested in all the little nitty-gritty things that I've changed. Like I said, the stuff I've done is a little more boring. It was just small little details that were wrong that I wanted to get fixed up for you guys. So, as always, take care and enjoy the mod.